In the last 6,000 years of human civilization, of all the things that humans have learnt about, explored, studied, marveled at, our brain, this tremendous supercomputer that can code, enrich, develop itself, is still a horizon that we haven't even fully seen beyond the haze, and let alone conquered. The stalwart astronomer Owen Gingerich once said, "The human brain is by far the most complex physical object known to us in the entire cosmos." But we as a species are propelled to know more, find out more, learn more. And so science and technology is now finding new insights into the realm of the nervous system. Although this field of science and research is at least 60 years old, new medically inspired technologies are blossoming and developing rapidly. And with the advent of these, we can now ask the questions, well, what can we learn from our brain? And how can we use the brain itself as a tool to help our strategies of improving and enhancing human lives? But can this information really help to enhance and improve human lives? Can we use machines working directly with our brain? Can these alliances help to diagnose health risks and, more pertinently, prevent, circumvent, or even cure us of many long-term, debilitating, and life-destroying diseases? Let us investigate how this is possible. Not could be, not might be, but is possible. So, in the simplest of terms, the brain receives signals, interprets them, either stores them as memory or sends out other signals to the rest of the body. Now imagine if we could see what signals or impulses are generated when and where they are generated when the brain receives a certain set of inputs. And then imagine if we could see what impulses are generated to affect a bodily function. Now, surely that would give us a handle on this elusive function of the brain. Enter the brain-machine interface. So here's your brain, and here's a machine. How does the twain meet? What is a brain-machine interface? So the simplest concept of this is the use of physical electrodes and wires inserted directly into the matter of the brain matter to record and interact with the functions and signaling of neurons in the brain. No one could have imagined that we could just stick in a cap of electrodes or a few terminals of a microchip into the brain and yet receive a complete readout of the complex signals in the brain. But crazily enough, it works. It's true. That's amazing, right? We can now hack into our analog natural supercomputers, our brains. And decades of research have now brought us to a point where implants can now be placed in specific function-bearing regions of the brain, say, for instance, the visual cortex. And whenever there is a neuronal impulse conveying information based on what the eye has encountered, there are voltage spikes in the visual cortex, which can be transmitted to an analysis module outside. Using appropriately trained, very clever AI algorithms, we can now produce a tangible output, which itself can be recorded, measured, and analyzed later. In short, we can see what the brain thought the eye is seeing. There is actually brain-machine interface data from 1999 that reconstructed what a cat saw. So the anesthetized cat was shown a video image, and from what the brain recorded, brain activity was measured, and the data was sent over to a data-to-image algorithm. The images generated they had remarkable accuracy and detail to the original video images shown. And this was almost 25 years ago. More recently, in August last year, And brain-machine interfaces have been unveiled that can translate neural signals to sentences at speeds close to that of normal conversation. Well, I'd say that gives a whole new meaning to reading your mind. But now let's imagine the next step, that we learn what instructions the brain sends to the rest of the body. And then, say we send some external signals of our own into the brain from an external operator. What would happen? So, an almost unbelievable possibility among many dud and or dangerous ones is that the brain would function almost as exactly as directed by our extraneous signal. And that, quite simply, is how we can interact with the brain to produce an effective desired function. And we can learn what the brain does normally, and then we can get it to do what we want it to do, even perhaps for it to repair itself. Like prescribing pills, we can prescribe pulses. In fact, it has been shown for quite some time that we can fool the brain into performing tasks as directed from the outside, or to see things it didn't naturally see. Vision has been restored in people who had lost their eyesight by linking to the visual cortex. And this was done to a level where they can perform everyday tasks without issues. This was actually achieved in, wait for it, 1978 on a patient called Jerry, based on the technologies back then. In another groundbreaking experiment, monkeys were able to perform tasks by moving a robot arm back and forth. Now, as you might know, it's very hard to get monkeys to do anything that you want them to do. So, how it worked was, when the monkeys moved the robot arm correctly, they were rewarded at the neuronal level by an external operator. Poor monkeys. They didn't even get a real peanut or a real banana. Anyway, there are many such examples which all point to the inevitable conclusion that a brain-machine interface can be used to control or restore nervous system-based function. So I guess there's great promise for bringing back lost senses and restoration of neural disorder-based muscle function that is brought by the brain-machine interfaces. One avenue of research in this respect is the restoration of muscle function in stroke victims. But what excites me even more is that we can use the readouts from these interfaces to assess the fidelity of neuronal function. Ideally, we would use a non-invasive brain-machine interface on a routine basis, or at least in risk-associated cases, and then we should be able to identify the presence of any neurodegenerative conditions. And this, more importantly, can lead to diagnosis in the earlier stages of pathology, which is much earlier than when it's usually caught, even by the most experienced of clinicians, which is usually when the disease is already too well established in the brain. It's already too late by that point. And I've actually seen members of my family rapidly succumb to neurodegenerative diseases in front of my eyes. If we had diagnosed it earlier than the medical care team did, then there would have been at least a delay in the decline. They might have even had an ameliorated condition by the end of it. We could have reversed its effects. I guess I'm just hopeful that in the future, brain-machine interfaces will be able to help numerous deeply loved ones all around the world. But going back to restoring senses and muscle function, how would that work? So we can reinforce correct sensory operation using brain-machine interfaces by promoting or inhibiting certain signals in the brain. After all, that's in the job description. And so what might happen, because the brain is adaptive. It's not a fixed thing. It can adapt to external influence. So what might happen is the patient's brain might start to heal itself over the course of therapy. Of course, if the affected neuronal region is permanently damaged or does not fix that way, then maybe we could use brain-machine interfaces as a permanent artificial replacement and to bypass the sensory deprivation. And actually, a similar method can be used in restoring muscle function. Brain-machine interfaces could effectively join a broken spinal cord back together, transmitting the correct signals across the gap. We can reunite the nervous system with other tissues. Say a patient's muscles did not respond or did not receive the stimuli of the motor neurons. The brain-machine interface can be used as a conduit to relay the signal. This might lead to the reversal of paralysis, quadriplegia, and many other similar conditions which were previously deemed final and irreversible. Of course, if there is the possibility that the patient's muscles, even after receiving the stimuli, may not even respond to it. In that case, brain-machine interfaces can be used to support moving prosthetic replacements. Don't forget the monkeys we were talking about earlier. They were moving the robotic arms. Similarly, the motor neuron signals can be translated to action by brain-machine interfaces. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we would ideally like a non-invasive brain-machine interface on a routine basis. That might not tie in with my description of it, though, which is a whole hodgepodge of physical electrodes and wires and tethers. But the development of these devices is accelerating. And the shrinking and miniaturization of electronic circuits, new super smart chips, novel non-invasive sensors, cutting-edge AI algorithms. These have been and are continuing to be developed as we speak at an ever-growing rate and with increasing success. Well, I guess a testament to the promise of brain-machine interfaces can be seen by the tremendous push in industry provided to increase the technology to commercialize practical systems like this, systems that patients themselves can use at home. Also, this was once an academic field, but the National Institute of Health in the USA has spent $3 billion on this in their BRAIN initiative to help propel this field even further. So as I was pointing to earlier, a slew of entrepreneurs have recognized the potential of brain-machine interfaces. And of course, the first on the scene was Elon Musk, finding Neuralink in 2016. The first aim in the Neuralink pipeline was to allow paralyzed people to control a cursor or a keyboard using just their thought. Since September last year, the same Neuralink is ready for volunteers for clinical trials. Another company, Synchron, based in New York, is more focused on miniaturizing flexible wireless devices and has now shown their new device to be safe for human use. And that new device actually can be accessed via the jugular and can transmit neural signals from inside a blood vessel in the brain. So there is actually no need for brain surgery. But wait till you hear what this new device can do. It can allow participants to text, email, and browse the web just by thinking about it. Such competition with Neuralink should certainly fuel innovation and development, right? So the third company, Precision Neuroscience, also New York-based, has developed a thin film, 1/5 the width of a human hair, to adhere to the surface of the brain. And yes, its initial aim is to map brain activity during brain surgery, but it has promised to be more efficient and more sensitive than existing technology. And also, its ultimate aim is to treat and identify neurological conditions, such as anxiety, dementia, depression, as we were discussing earlier. I can go on. There are many other commercial ventures which are all developing their versions of devices that can send and receive brain impulses. But these are truly exciting times indeed. In fact, I would say that it's the dawn of a new era in medicine completely. The germination of the unraveling of the brain's secrets. The start of an electrifying epoch where the brain's function can be restored, and the initial reconnaissance of our neural anatomy can be completed. And also, technology only goes forward. What we have now can be just a penny farthing to a future Harley-Davidson bike of scientific research and progress. So in short, brain-machine interfaces are not just some wacky idea from a science fiction novel, but they are a new, very real, very viable way to expand therapy and medicine into the nervous system. And the applications I just described, they're just the tip of the iceberg. They're potentially endless applications of brain-machine interfaces. And I'm certain that by unlocking the brain, we can open new doors in future medicine, and we can brighten the prospect of our health and well-being. I am confident that brain-machine interfaces will take the world by storm and revolutionize new and emerging theories and therapies. Now, isn't that a magic future to look forward to? Well, at least I think so. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.